Hello children, welcome to iTTV. My name is Mr. Wong and I am going to be your English teacher today. In today's lesson, we're going to learn about a poem. Do you know what a poem is? A poem is a composition about anything. Sometimes a poem rhymes, but not always. Usually poems are a lot of fun to read. Today, we are going to read a poem about John's family. Are you ready? Now here we go. There are 4 people in my family. There is Mummy, Daddy, Jamie and me. Oh my goodness, how did I miss our family cat, Mrs. Smith. Daddy is a jolly man. He works in the post office, driving a van. Mummy is gentle, loving and kind. She likes to clean until everything shines. Jamie is my big brother. He is much older than me. He goes to college to study accountancy. I don't have a job, but I work very hard. I'm in primary 5 and I study smart. My family means the world to me, so making them proud is my goal, you see. I love my family, Jamie, my mum and dad, and this time not forgetting Mrs. Smith, our family cat. So children, how did you like the poem? Can you tell me what the poem was about? That's right, it was about John's family. Now how many people were there in John's family? There was his father, his mother, his big brother, and of course there was John himself. Now let us look at each character in the poem. Let us also see how John describes each member of his family. First of all, there was his father. Now let's look at this picture. Here you see a man driving a red van. John describes his father as a jolly man. Now what does jolly mean? Jolly means happy and cheerful. Now if you look at the driver, he looks very happy and cheerful, doesn't he? Now what do you think John's father does for the post office? Looking at this picture, I would say, that's right, he's a postman. Next on, we have his mother. Now John doesn't say what his mother does for a living, but he does say she likes to clean until everything shines. What do you think his mother works as? Probably a housewife. Now even though this is not written in the poem, we can conclude that maybe she is a housewife. Next we have Jamie, his big brother. Here you have 2 people in this picture. You have got the big person, this is Jamie, and we have John sitting here with his computer. Now we know that Jamie is a student who studies accountancy in college. I'm sure John looks up to his brother, don't you? Now there is one more member in his family. Who is that? That's right, it is Mrs. Smith, the family cat. Now Mrs. Smith isn't really a part of John's family. Why do you think he considers Mrs. Smith part of the family? I'll leave that to you, and we'll talk about that later. Now that we have looked at all the different characters in the poem, let's read the poem again. There are 4 people in my family. There is Mummy, Daddy, Jamie and me. Oh my goodness, how did I miss our family cat, Mrs. Smith. Daddy is a jolly man. He works for the post office, driving a van. Mummy is gentle, loving and kind. She likes to clean till everything shines. Jamie is my big brother. He is much older than me. He goes to college to study accountancy. I don't have a job, but I work very hard. I'm in primary 5 and I study smart. My family means the world to me, so making them proud is my goal, you see. I love my family, Jamie, my mum and dad, and this time not forgetting Mrs. Smith, our family cat. Now that we have read the poem the second time, I'm sure you know it a lot better. What we're going to do next is we're going to answer some objective questions to see how well we know the poem. Now children, remember, it is very important to always read all the instructions before you start any exercise. So let's read the instructions together. Please choose the correct answer for the following questions. Now, the first question. How many people are there in John's family? A. 4, B. 5, C. 3, or D. 6? Question 2. The word jolly in the passage means A. Funny, B. Laughing, C. Cheerful, or D. Sad? Question number 3. What does John's mother work as? A. A cleaner, B. A housewife, C. A shoe shine, or D. An accountant? Question 4. From the poem, we know that John works very hard because A. He is hard-working, B. He wants to be smart, C. He is a student, D. He wants to make his family proud. Question 5, the final question. Why do you think John considers Mrs. Smith as part of his family? A. Mrs. Smith is the family cat. B. Mrs. Smith lives in their house. C. John loves the family cat. Or D. John wants more than just a big brother. So children, have you finished? Now if you have, let's go through the questions and see how you did. Question 1. How many people are there in John's family? The answer to question 1 is A. There are 4 people in John's family. There is his father, his mother, his big brother Jamie, and of course John himself. Now some of you might have chosen answer B, but you must remember that Mrs. Smith isn't really part of John's family. She's only the family pet. Now let's move on to question 2. The word jolly in the passage means? The answer to this is C. Cheerful. The word jolly means happy and cheerful. Now a person who is jolly might be funny or might be laughing, but it doesn't describe what the word means. Let's move to question number 3. What does John's mother work as? Now this question is a little bit tricky because in the poem it doesn't directly tell you what she does for a living. Okay? But from the way he describes what his mother does, we can conclude that the answer to question 3 is B. She is a housewife. She's busy cleaning till everything shines. Now moving on to question 4. From the poem, we know that John works very hard because D. He wants to make his family proud. Now again, John may be a very hard-working student, or he might also want to be very smart. But from the poem, it tells us that the reason he works so hard is because he wants to make his family proud. Now finally, question 5. Why do you think John considers Mrs. Smith as part of his family? And the answer is C. John loves the family cat very much. She may not be his brother or sister, but because he loves her so much, he considers her part of the family. Now, how did you do? Did any of you get everything correct? Now for those of you who made a few mistakes, go through it again, read the poem, and try and figure out why. Moving on to exercise 2. Now in this exercise, we are going to write about John's family. Now we are going to answer 5 questions that will help us write about John's family. Now we're going to go through the questions one by one. Now after I have read the question to you, write the answer to that question in full sentences. Are you ready? How many people are there in John's family? Question 2. What sort of person is John's father? Question 3. What does John's mother work as? Question 4. How many siblings does John have? Last question. Question 5. How does John feel about his family? Have you finished? Let's go through the questions one by one and see how you did. How many people are there in John's family? Now we've already given you the answer in the objective questions, but this time we want you to write it out. There are 4 people in John's family. Now what sort of a sentence is this? Now let's move on to question 2. What sort of person is John's father? John's father is a jolly person. Now you can also define the meaning of jolly. You can say that John's father is a happy and cheerful person. Question 3. What does John's mother work as? John's mother is a housewife. Question 4. How many siblings does John have? Do you understand the word siblings? Now, a sibling is a person's brother or sister. So John only has one older brother. So the answer is John has an older brother. Now, question 5. How does John feel about his family? John loves his family very much and wants to make them proud. So children, how did you do? Are your answers very similar to the ones shown to you? Now that we've written sentences about John's family, let's write sentences about our own family. Now, using the questions that we just answered, let's change them a little bit and write about our own families. Now remember, you're writing about your family, not about John anymore. Okay, let's look at the first question. How many people are there in your family? What sort of person is your father? Number 3. What does your mother work as? Four. How many siblings do you have? 5. How do you feel about your family? Okay, children, you have just written 5 sentences about your family. I don't know who you are, so I've written 5 sample answers for you. Let's look at question 1. How many people are there in your family? There are 5 people in my family. Now, I don't know how many people are there in your family, so this might be very different. Question 2. What sort of person is your father? My father is a very strict but caring man. Question 3. What does your mother work as? My mother works as a teacher. Question 4. How many siblings do you have? I have 2 siblings, a younger brother and an older sister. And finally, question 5. How do you feel about your family? I love my family very much. Wasn't it fun to learn about John's family? Let's summarize what we learned today. We read a poem, and after we understood the poem, we answered questions about it. We even answered questions that were not clearly stated in the poem. Then we wrote about John's family. Now, using the questions that we answered, we then wrote about our own families. Children, I hope you enjoyed today's lesson, and I hope I see you all very soon. Take care for now. Bye.